Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Now today I'm going to make shepherd's pie. This was a request that I had from somebody on my YouTube channel, and I've already made a cottage pie, which some people tend to call shepherd's pie, and I've done that, but now I'm going to make the lamb version, which may be more authentic because shepherds and lambs go together. And for that I'm using minced lamb or ground lamb, and I already have the potatoes made that I need to go on the top because I made that for the cottage pie. And for this one I'm going to use individual little tins so that I can make single servings. You could do it in an 8 by 12 or 11 by 9 pan or something like that, roasting dish, but I'm going to do individual ones. Now for the ingredients, I have 750 grams of ground lamb. Now this is 20% fat, it's the only one I could get yesterday, so I'm going to fry that off a little bit to get rid of some of the fat first of all. And then I have 2 onions which I've chopped, 2 carrots which I've chopped, 350 millilitres of stock. I'm using a beef stock here, but you could use vegetable stock or chicken stock or lamb stock. I have 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 2 tablespoons of Worcester sauce, 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, 1 teaspoon of dried rosemary, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1 tablespoon of flour. As well as that, I'm going to be using some salt and pepper. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fry off our lamb until it's brown, and then I'll drain off any excess fat before I go in and soften the carrots and the onions. Now I'm using a little bit of butter in the pan, but not too much, and I'm going to fry this lamb off a bit at a time. I'm not putting it all in, and I want to brown it, and then once it's brown I will take it out of the pan and fry the next lot. As you can see, quite a bit of fat's coming out of that, so I'm going to drain this off and put the next lot in, but I'm going to take this fat out first. Okay, so our lamb is browned, and I've taken out quite a bit of fat from it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to I've turned my heat down, and I'm going to gently soften the carrots and the onion. So I'll saute these with just a little bit of oil until they've started to soften a little bit. Okay, so our onions and carrots have begun to soften a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my rosemary, thyme, garlic and my flour, and I'm going to mix that all around. And then I'm going to add in my Worcester sauce and the tomato paste. I mix that around. And then put the lamb back in as well. And I'm going to add my stock, and then I'm going to bring that up to a simmer. I'm going to let that simmer for 15 minutes. By which time the juice should have reduced down a little bit. If it reduces too much, then you can always add some water or some more stock. And while that's doing, I'm going to season with some salt and some pepper. So that's simmering, and I said simmer it for 15 minutes, but actually I meant 45 minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover that and let it simmer on a low heat for 45 minutes, but I'll keep a watch on it so that if it needs more liquid, it will get more liquid. Okay, so our shepherd's pie mince has simmered away nicely for 45 minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour in 150 grams of frozen peas, which I have allowed to thaw out, and they will cook perfectly when we cook this in the oven. So we'll go on and fill our individual cases. So what I have is my mince, and here I have the potato which I made earlier with the cottage pie mixture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spoon some of our mixture into the tin, like that, and then I'm going to top it with potato. I'm going to spread the potato out. Now you could pipe this potato if you wanted to. I'm going to put a little bit more on the top. And I'll get my offset spatula and spread that. And then with a fork, we just make a little mark again as we did with our cottage pie. And these are ready, that would then be ready for the oven too. So that can then be put into the oven, which would have been preheated to 180 Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and cook for about 25 minutes. And I would test it with my thermometer to make sure that it's reached temperature, but 25 minutes would certainly do that. You could also, because we're making individual ones in this particular video, store some in the fridge for the next day, or you could freeze them if you wrap them in plastic wrap or put them in Ziploc bags. You could freeze them, but then you would have to cook them for longer when you take them out of the freezer, or you would have to thaw them completely before you cook them. So I will cook one, and then I'll be back and show you what it looks like. Well, I've cooked the shepherd's pie, the individual ones, and I ought to stress that you could make these in the larger dish like I made the cottage pie yesterday. I should also say this is now the next day that I've actually cooked the ones I made yesterday. But you could put them into a larger dish and just make one large one, but I made individual ones, and I actually got 10 individual ones from my mixture. I could have done with a little bit more mashed potato, I think, but it was fine as it is. And this is what it looks like cooked. And it's still quite hot, so I'm going to try to have a taste, but I don't want to burn myself. That is very, very good. I love that creamy, buttery mashed potato, and the lamb flavour really comes through with the rosemary and the thyme. That is ideal. That's going to be my dinner, so I'd better get on and eat that fairly quickly. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do subscribe, there's a little bell icon that you can click on, which will make sure you get notifications when I put new videos online. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, which will take you to this recipe, and I'll put a link for the recipe below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.